Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Human Resource and Compensation Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, November 12th. And I'd like to verify that the meeting has been posted, has it?
Yes, it has.
Great, thank you. We have an opportunity for public comment. Did anyone sign up to speak tonight?
That doesn't mean.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have a few action items this evening for committee approval. The first is the approval of Human Resource and Compensation Committee minutes from the October 8th, 2025 meeting. Motion to.
I so motion.
Second.
Thank you. Carlin? Sure, thank you. Anybody have any comments or concerns? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. Oh, and I wanted to mention that Mr. Zenobia is absent this evening and excused. Okay, next we'll move on to the approval of resignations and retirements. I've been provided some information. We have a
Motion to approve the resignations and retirements as proposed. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Watt. Any concerns or discussion needed? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. Okay, next we'll move on to the approval of leaves and absences and leave modifications.
And there are none this evening.
None this evening, okay. No need to vote on anything, obviously. Okay, next we have the approval of new contracts and contract modifications, which was shared with us earlier. I have a motion to approve the new contracts and contract modifications as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rob.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any discussion about? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, we have a discussion item tonight and possible action if we decide we'd like to go that route. The 26-27 school calendar drafts. At our last meeting, we had conversation about that, and I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Beatty to continue the conversation.
Yeah, so last meeting I brought together and brought forward a draft of the 26-27 school year that had to start on September 1st. And we had some discussion of what that would look like if we asked for a waiver and started earlier in August, which would allow us to end earlier in May. So I drafted one of those as well. In order for us to do that, we actually this evening wouldn't be approving a calendar, we'd actually be approving a resolution, which would allow me to ask DPI for a waiver. So in order for me to ask for a waiver, the board would have to approve a resolution to do so, and then I would request a waiver of which they would have to grant it prior to actually voting on a different type of calendar. So I provided details regarding that in case that's a direction that the committee was looking into. Otherwise, also in board docs was the version that I brought back last month that we had received feedback on. We don't have feedback yet on an early start from the community. We have some feedback from staff members. We did talk to union leadership, but not our usual process as we don't meet with those groups until next week.
Is there anything able to be shared with regard to the feedback from staff at this point? Was it favorable?
It was limited feedback, and I would say it was mostly neutral. I would say that without them actually seeing a draft, so they would want to see that. The consensus was an AP teacher might favor having an earlier start because they have time with their students, but obviously that's a small population of our student population and our teachers. So kind of pros and cons, but since they didn't really have a draft in front of them to really analyze, I would say it wasn't very strong either way from that.
Makes sense.
Would we be required if we requested a waiver to adopt an early start if it was granted?
I would have to ask DPI. I do know in statute, after we request the waiver and submit the paperwork to DPI, we can retract our request. I'd have to find out if they grant it. Would we have to? I don't know why we would, because it just gives us the option to start early, but I would want to specifically ask DPI that question.
The reason I ask is I wonder if we might want to, well, let me back up. So I'm not in favor of adopting an earlier start for this coming school, 26, 27. I do think though, getting the discussion started and trying to gauge from our staff and our stakeholders if they have a preference or not, is a good thing. So I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm wondering if we would want to see if it's even something that DPI would be likely to approve or not before we go too far down that road though. Which is why I asked if we might think it's worthwhile to adopt the resolution and submit it. But, you know, choose not to implement an early start date for this coming school year. But have that, you know, be armed with that knowledge going forward that we likely could get granted in the future, but.
I do have some knowledge with another district that had phone call to DPI that they did seem like they were willing to approve a waiver under circumstances regarding busing.
Okay.
And that the turnaround time, I'll find out from that particular district, but another district, that turnaround time for a decision was 2 weeks. Now, I don't know that that means it would be similar for us. If it's 6 weeks, then you're delaying, you know, a vote again, so I'm just not entirely certain. But I would want to ask directly if they approve a waiver, could we still choose a September 1 start date?
And then since we're not looking at it for this coming school year start, is there an expiration on that?
Each year, you would have to ask annually, so it's a 1-year waiver. So one example, if we were not looking for 26, 27, then what I could do is, number one, find out specifically if they grant it, must we use it? Because we could revisit this in the spring to adopt a resolution in the spring for the following 27, 28. So that way we have all that time to vet drafts, knowing we have an improved waiver. So that could be an alternate process.
Is there any sort of cost associated with having to file the paperwork and documents, like
No.
any sort of fee, or just obviously the time and
Yeah.
energy that you're with it, but I appreciate putting together the varied draft calendars for us. I know we briefly talked last month about the time within specific days. This still seems the same number of days, correct? What would that look like to have a 10-minute longer day? Just an overall condensed schedule. Are there any districts in the area that operate on that?
The districts, yes, everyone has different start and end times. We all have our minimum that we have to meet with DPI. So if we were looking at trying to find a different way to say end early, we could explore that. It has to do then with decisions regarding if students go to school for 178 days in our district, are we willing to have them only go for 176, for example, even though, and we're extending a day by 5 minutes or 7 minutes. So there's a lot of different things we could look at. It just would likely be altering, because not all districts in our area have students go 178 days. It varies by, day or two, district to district. Similar with teacher contracts. Ours are 190. Other districts might have a 188, 191, 180. So it varies. So that it would be a broader discussion if that was something that we wanted to look into.
When do we need to have a calendar adopted by?
There is no guideline. We typically adopt in October or November just for community purposes, so they can look and know what it is for future planning. If we were to want to request a waiver, I would need a resolution prior to January 1, because that would be when the paperwork would be due for DPI.
So to be clear, this calendar that we're considering moving forward with the resolution would be the following school year, not this coming.
I drafted for this coming school year. If we're not interested in this coming school year, so for 26, 27, I don't think we need to talk about a waiver or a resolution until the spring, until maybe April, I would bring it up again, and we could just again start that dialogue about a waiver, but then that would, we'd be talking for 27, 28.
Yeah, and we'd have several months to
Correct.
submit the waiver, gather feedback. There's no big rush to.
Exactly.
So tonight then a vote, a positive vote, which is in enable you to go ahead and request the waiver, the resolution. And it doesn't really, and if we decide we don't want to go that route, what I'm understanding, we don't have to go the route, even though we request the waiver. And then granted, we looked into it, we don't necessarily have to make a change if we decide we don't want to go that.
Correct, but I would think right now, if we don't want to pursue it for 26-27, then probably we would be looking for a motion to approve the draft calendar with a September 1st start date that you all saw last month and then have again this month.
I actually will move to approve the draft calendar with a start date of September 1st.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion about that? Okay, so it's been motion to approve the draft calendar as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. Okay, that is, all of our action we needed to do tonight. We also have time for discussion, information items. Is there anything further that was discussed? I don't see anything on the agenda, so I think we're good. Any other business? Okay, well, do we have any recommendations for some future committee meeting topics? All right, well, that will conclude our meeting for this evening. Our next Human Resources and Compensation Committee meeting will be on December 10th, Wednesday, ahead of the general board meeting at 6 p.m. here in the administration.